Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you watched my last video, you will know this video. I will continue to talk about surveillance. In last video, I talked about what benefits the surveillance has brought to us in society, but it has been violating our personal privacy in many social apps. For example, Facebook and Google will use your search to recommend related posts or advertisements. Sometimes I search for brand of some clothes in the Instagram. When I go to Google, I will be surprised that it will put advertising for same brand. Over the past few years, user advocates has taken Facebook and other platforms to court for unlawfully keeping logs of user data. Here I remind everyone that when using social software, we must pay attention to protecting our own privacy. In a society dedicated to risk reduction, the elderly to supervise themselves and other supervisors to reduce injuries and prolong life. However, the elderly don't like age-specific environments, where such as monitoring is often private, advanced centers, long-term care, and hospitals all adopt surveillance measures designed to promote health. Now we have a lot of time to discussing about coronavirus, and we are more concerned about such as infectiousness and mortality. As for the mortality caused by the coronavirus, we have been thinking about the question: should we use surveillance programs?
With lockdowns still in effect across the country, Americans are growing restless.
They've taken something and blown it so far out of proportion that it's destroying our country.
There's a system that could make reopening possible without increasing the spread of COVID-19. It's called contact tracing and involves tracking down every in-person interaction that infected individuals have had in the preceding days, and then testing, isolating, and repeating the process. Several countries are using phone applications that use Bluetooth or GPS to generate a record of who individuals have come into contact with. In Singapore, downloading contact tracing apps is voluntary. China and Israel use them to enforce mandatory quarantines and isolation.
Voluntary coronavirus tracing and tracking software for iPhones and Androids.
In the US, Apple and Google have partnered to create a contact tracking app for iPhones and Android devices. But these technologies are raising serious privacy concerns.
It's important that these systems are lawful and voluntary. It's important that these systems minimize to the greatest extent possible the collection of personal information.
Alan Butler is a lawyer with the Electronic Privacy Information Center, which has been urging Congress to build privacy protections into any contact tracing system deployed in the United States. Butler says it's also vital that the system be entirely voluntary. Wouldn't making it voluntary limit the amount of data able to be collected and therefore undermine the effectiveness of the system?
I think it's likely that a decent percentage of citizens may decide to install that app because if it's actually useful, then they may find it helpful for themselves. But there will never be universal coverage for this type of system. I think it's never meant to be, right? It's not a silver bullet.
Butler says, like in other countries, these apps would be used in conjunction with manual data collection, and he cautions against systems deploying any apps that use GPS to track phones, like those being used in China and Israel.
That really changes the relationship between the government and the citizen. It's very different to build a system, for citizens to receive alerts that actually serve a purpose to them and serve a public health purpose versus, a system of direct government enforcement of quarantine orders and the like.
We have seen that many countries have taken severe measures to curb the proliferation of coronavirus, including the implementation of travel bans and segregation, as well as increased surveillance at local locations such as airports we may question the way this global health crisis is used to regulate surveillance measures, but we have to admit that surveillance is reducing the number of deaths. Many news shows that the number of confirmed diagnoses is gradually decreasing. Monitoring process as such the relevant firms and found that the question of whether to use the surveillance program during the outbreak was still very controversial. Some people said these surveillance programs can be inaccurate, and some people said the surveillance content may include social software and bank records. They don't want to be surveillance. There are even have fashion designers, in order to reduce the possibility of being surveillance, to design clothes with a lot of license plates.
Every day, your movement is tracked, your purchases logged, your searches saved, and your face is scanned. Facial recognition technology is becoming more widespread daily. Privacy International has reported 24 countries have already implemented location tracking to help ensure compliance with quarantine. So, can we resist the surveillance society? Should we? Kate Rose says yes.
I think you have a right to consent to how your information is used, especially if it's meant to be at some point used against you or used extrajudicially. I am trying my best to explore these systems and see how we together can work to confound them or to put data into them as we please.
Rose is a designer, cybersecurity expert, and founder of Adversarial Fashion, a line of surveillance-resistant clothing such as masks meant to block facial recognition cameras, and shirts patterned with fake license plates meant to feed bad data into the automated license plate readers, now ubiquitous in the US and Europe.
I came up with a couple of different designs that not only do read effectively into license plate readers, but they gave me enough wiggle room design-wise to also make a pattern that is aesthetic and fun to wear and something people would like to actually buy.
Rose's concern about extrajudicial use of personal data is less far-fetched than ever in the age of coronavirus lockdowns. Rose is one of several designers trying to fight surveillance with fashion. While Rose's license plate shirts and dresses disseminate bad data, other anti-surveillance designers use fashion as a form of obstruction, marketing makeup products.
Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.